Good morning, class. Today we are going to start rulers and buildings. In this chapter, basically we are going to see that during which ruler what type of buildings and what type of constructions were done, and types of constructions, then purpose of construction. Many times the constructions used to be for protection of the state, then many times it is religious, sometimes parks are made for public. Here we are going to focus on these pictures only. In the first page, Qutub Minar's picture is given to you, and in this Qutub Minar, here you can see some words are written. At this height, at what precision these things are put. These remarkable things to be taken care of during that time. And what is the language used? It is Arabic language. It is Arabic language, and check the geometrical understanding that time. Here, this is called a minar, Qutub Minar, and it was started by Qutubuddin Aibak and completed by Iltutmish. Here, this building is built 800 years ago. Now, in this point, here I have tried to describe you that what were the purposes and what type of constructions done during that time or done previously by our rulers. Whether it was the time of Rajputs or time of Mughals or Muslim rulers. Here the point is, first category comes forts, palaces, gardens, residences and tombs. These are for the safety and protection and display the conditions places rest in the world for the next. That means tomb work. And it used to display the granditions there. And second one is the public welfare issue they used to undertake, where all can go: temples, mosques, tanks, wells, then caravans and the sarais were built, bazaars. Here the kings used to take care of their subjects for their comfort. And what is the view there? That the king will receive the praise. Many a times these constructions were done by the merchants also. Children, you could remember that in class 7 we have read about sarais. Class 6 we have read about sarais, and there in those sarais what we read, that sarais were the common places where all merchants can stay and take rest. Here also the merchants can take an initiative and build buildings where people can live. Then there were some domestic architecture, that means for the purpose of residence and all, and that is called as the Haveli, big homes for the merchants. Here engineering skills and constructions. Monuments provide an insight the technology, what technologies were being used that time, and sometimes woods were used, big pieces of stones were used, sand across the four walls. It is not only putting the roof over there. It is not like that make a structure and put a roof. But that time large rooms were even built and superstructures were there. During the 7th and 10th century, a different type of construction we are going to see it. It is called terabits. 7th to 10th century, there were terabits. In it, rooms, roofs, then windows, all the doors, everything was put with the help of two vertical columns. Two columns used to stand, and above there, here we can put the window, here we can put the doors even. Or corrugated. Here you can see the corrugated shapes. Here you can see the corrugated shapes. Here this structure has a column, and above that there the windows and other things are, this jharukha is put. Here also you can see in this picture columns are there. These columns are in supporting. These are called terabeds. In Rajasthan and other side, you can go and find there that baulis used to be there. Baulis are the step well. People used to go down step by step, and then they get the water there. No need of using the ropes and other things. Here in the 11th century now, see here temples we are talking about. The temple architecture you can see, that is also in the mathematical way. This is called the Garbhagriha, this is called the Mandapam, and here everything is done in a proper geometric shape. Mathematics and architecture geometry was used. These points were taken care of during that time. Here Garbhagriha, where the main god's idol used to be there, and Mandapam, where the common people used to come and sit there. Now next we see the Rajeshwara temple at Tanjavur. It has the tallest Sikhara. This point is called the Sikhara. This construction was not easy, children. So see here, the area, the village nearby is called, this temple is where it is in Charupalam. This temple is even called Charupalam, and the village is even called Charupalam because when the topmost stone was to be placed, this side whole mud was filled and it was around 4 kilometers long. So they can drag the stone, pull the stone, and they can take to the top. So 4-kilometer road was built beside the temple, and when the construction was over, when the temple's Sikhara was put, it was removed. It is made by the Chola kings. The temple is Raja Rajeshwara temple at Tanjavur. And it is not easy to take there. It cannot be airlifted. Heaviest Sikhara till date, 90 ton. Here two types of construction we are looking at. This is in the back side we read about terabed. Here we are reading about arcuate. Arcuate, what used to happen? It is an interlocking system there. The stones are locked with each other in such a way that due to the weight above, due to the weight here, these stones used to be at its place. Just like you do one thing, that you place some newspapers and sit above and ask somebody, some of your younger brother or sister, to pull a newspaper. It cannot be pulled easily because you are sitting over here. So due to your weight, it cannot be removed. This was the architectural logic in this type of construction. Second construction was rather too easy, that we use today also. We are using cement. So similarly, that time also the cement and other things are used for making construction, and it was high quality cements were used. That time natural things were used more for the purpose of constructions. Here now let us go to the next point. building temples, mosques, and tanks. In this point, what was the purpose of these things? What was the purpose of building temples, mosques, or tanks? The purpose was to show the power, wealth, and the devotion to whom I am devoting, to which God I display my tribute. Here, Raja Rajeshwara temple. Let us go for this example. King Raja Raja Deva, Chola king, was devotee of this god, so he built the temple, and the temple was named as Raja Rajeshwara. When any Christianization ceremony used to take place at your home, that means Namkaran Sanskar, what used to happen? Your name used to be assimilated with some meaning. Either some god's name used to be kept, or some meaningful word that intellectual effect be on you. Similarly, the gods' names were kept by the king, so that whenever anyone would offer the prayer, then the offering and the blessing will go to the king also. So the names were kept. Just like Raja Rajeshwara temple, when the temple's prayer used to go, wherever the mantras used to be chanted, there the king's name is also taken, that he has built this temple. He has made this god enshrine here. In this way, the Lord and the maker of the temple used to be taken both at the time, because Hindu kings considered themselves as the incarnation of God, or they considered themselves as the blessed son of gods. Similarly, you can go to Puri, there the temples, especially in the Sun temple, you will find a Konark, where when you enter, there you can find an elephant and a tiger. Then in tiger's mouth a man is there. It defines the king's name over there. The king's name is Gajapati, and the lion is Narasimha, and the man refers to Dev. The king's name was Gajapati Narasimha Dev, who built the Konark temple. This way they assimilated the names. By seeing the architecture, if you take the names of the figurine over there, you will easily get the names of the kings. Now, they used to display in the central hall, in the Garbhagriha, the main deity. Other lesser deities were gods and goddesses, or the allies, or the subordinates. Their miniature used to be displayed around it. Their miniature, any temple you can enter, there used to be a main god, and beside there are small figures. That deities are referred as the subordinate god. Just like somebody prays to Shiva, then they have to put the Parvati ji there, then they have to go for Nandi there. Then Shiva will be the largest and most prominent, and Nandi and Parvati will be the smaller subordinate deities over there. Here just a different thing. The Hindu kings used to display that God's rule they are bringing to earth, where, as I have written here, side notes, Hindu kings incarnation, Hindu kings display incarnation, and Muslim kings consider themselves shadow of gods. Here it is written. Everywhere, wherever the mosques they built, they tried to display that the mosques are built by the teaching of their prophets. Just like Alauddin, he said that he had the qualities of Moses and Solomon. They were the greatest lawgiver and architecture, and was God himself. In Islam, they are considered as God, and they taken out the world from the chaos, and uncertainties and all. So in this way it is done. Here in this picture, down the picture there is a mosque given. Here you can see the Qibla, the west, because it is an important point that I'll discuss later. You have to see it here. Here in this point, the king, whosoever came, sometimes they displayed their moral responsibility also, that they made the places of worship so that they can display that they are holy people and they have a good link with the gods. And the rulers also offered patronage to the learned and pious people. Kings have not only built the religious palaces or places, children, but here they did some constructing tanks, reservoirs, and highly praised. Here in this Iltutmish has also earned a lot of names because he has made a large reservoir just outside Delhi. It was named as Delhi Khona. Then Hoje Sultani King's Reservoir. Here you can see Harmandir Sahib, the golden temple where the great water is kept. Why these things are done? Because they felt that rain would not be all time, and rain was the need of common man. The water is need of common man. So they wanted that they should provide water facility to their people. Why were temples destroyed? The reason behind it is given there. The temples used to demonstrate the devotion of God, and it was also a display of power and wealth. Two things were there, and it is not surprising that when the other king would come, they will target first those points which used to display the grandeur and the riches of the king. Isn't that can be a revengeful wars used to be a revengeful attitude, so people would be attacking on other state and they will dismantle those signs which would display the riches of the previous ruling dynasty. Here some Buddhist chroniclers have written it that during this their time valuable images of goddess Buddha were removed because there were the attacks, and Sinhalas were yet very popular in Sri Lanka. Sinhalas, their Sena to order their general commander to invade Madurai, and Madurai was the capital of Pandayas. We have learnt it. And the Buddhist chronicler says that there the war took place and the golden statues of Buddha were taken out, restored. Pandayas attacked on Sinhalas, then Sinhalas attacked. These wars descriptions on Buddhist texts. Similarly, in the earlier 11th century, Rajendra Chola, he built a Shiva temple, and his temple, what he had decorated all around, the decoration of his temple was the main gods and goddesses, or the prized god and goddesses, costly gods, idols were displayed that the countries he defeated to or states he defeated to. Just like sun pedestal of Chalukyas, Ganesh statues from Durga, Nandi statues from Eastern Chalukyas, Bhairava a form of Shiva, Bhairavi of Kalingas of Orissa, and Kali statue from Palas of Bengal. This way it used to display their power also. Muhammad of Ghazni, we know him very well. He came during the time of Rajendra I, when the temples were used to be the storehouses of wealth, grain and everything for Indians. So earlier the temple size used to be very big because it were not only religious centers, these were the centers of art, architecture, literature, festivals and granary, even storehouses. There, what happened? Muhammad of Ghazni, what he did? He came, he plundered the temples, and he had taken the wealth and idols to his country, and he was the only man who attacked on the Somnath temple. So, in the history, Islamic history, he is considered a hero of Islam because he had demolished so many Hindu temples. In the political culture, the medieval, he displayed this, and in Middle Age, medieval history, beta, everyone, we have the feeling, they had the feeling that time that attacking, demolishing others' place of worship, that means it is a defeat of ruler. In this point, now garden tombs and forts. Here basically we have lot of literature left about the Mughals only, because they were the last rulers who constructed. Before that, the rulers, the places they built were demolished by the rulers forthcoming, just like Chalukya destroyed Pandyas, Pandya destroyed Cholas, Cholas destroyed Palas, and last ruling was the Mughals. Britishers built it, but they built basically offices and churches. As we have lot of written record also available during the Mughals, Babur has also described his interest, his inclination towards the architecture. So during Babur, Persian style of architecture was introduced in India, placed within the rectangular walled enclosures, divided into 4 quarters. Here you can see it. And then the Charbagh, that means 4 gardens. This is a question here in the book also, so we will go through it nicely. Charbagh were constructed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan in Kashmir, Agra and Delhi also. There are several important architectural innovations taken place during Akbar. Akbar had built their forefathers' tomb in Central Asia. Basically, it is not in India. The buildings which were built by Akbar as tombs, just like Babur's tomb is not in India. He died here. His body was taken to his country, and there, from where he came, there it was done. And it was an interest why the dead bodies, or why the tombs were built there, why the dead bodies were taken beside Timur. They wanted to be beside Timur. We have read that Timur was their idol, and they liked and accepted Timur as the greatest Mughal. Humayun's tomb, it is a huge formal Charbagh, and here Charbagh, it is also called at 8 paradise or Hasta Visishta, a central hall which is surrounded by 8 rooms. Big domes were there. Red sandstone was used. Red sandstone is used for Red Fort also. Credit go to Shah Jahan and Jahangir for its completion. During Shah Jahan reign, there different type of elements were introduced. His reign witnessed a huge amount of construction activity, especially in Agra and Delhi. Now here we are going to learn about 2 things, that they had a different type of construction for a special type of meeting and common meeting. So Diwan-e Khas and Diwan-e Aam. Here 2 types of halls described. Diwan-e Khas, where all can assemble, people assemble there. And there Diwan-e Aam. Diwan-e Aam was for all, Diwan-e Khas for particular people, and it was carefully planned, and there are 40 pillars in this hall, that is called Chihil Sutun. Now here one more important thing that is very interesting, that the position I told you Qibla in the previous minutes, the Qibla referred to the west direction, which side basically Muslims used to face during the prayers. Then Shah Jahan made his pedestal or set his throne at such place that all Muslims while attending, or Hindus while attending the meetings and assemblies, they have to face to west, so that Shah Jahan be at the place of God and all are praying, offering their prayers to God. He had done such a arrangement. This was called as Qibla. Qibla was the sitting arrangement done by him. Here Shah Jahan, for giving justice in the courts of Red Fort, he has made such a big arrangement so that his orders can be communicated to all his audience. Here construction of Shah Jahan's audience hall aimed to communicate that king's justice would treat the high and the low as equal. And he has displayed Pitradura. I am showing you the photo again. This is the reference of Pitradura. This is the display of Pitradura, where the depressions were hanging, and in this there used to be great intricate designs used to be displayed. Carving used to be there. So it is called as a Pitradura. Here this is also one Pitradura style, and where the king used to sit and give away its justice, which should be equal for all. Now, in this point, first Shah Jahan's capital was Agra. Why he settled here? Due to the facility of river Yamuna, and the nobilities all were settled down there. And it was a very posh area where it was particularly for the noble type of people, not common people. Here again you can get a Charbagh reference, Charbagh designs, and in Taj Mahal also you can find the Charbagh design 1, 2, 3, 4. This is called as a Charbagh display. Here Taj Mahal's description is given. Now the effect of reason and its empire. A construction activity was carried out due to the need. Just like Vijayanagara constructions were especially meant for elephants. Huge high buildings used to be built for the purpose that the elephants can even enter through the gate. They can enter into the palaces even. So big high buildings were done. And their Vijayanagar Empire influenced the Bijapur and Golconda Santalats. Vrindavan, Mathura, they have the styles that has influenced the Mughals while making the Fatehpur Sikri, construction of Fatehpur Sikri. And during this there was a cross fertilization of artists. Artists infused the style, Indian style, Persian style, Gandhara style, all got infused and beautiful designs were coming up. In construction, when we talk, how could we forget Bengal? If you enter into Bengal, children, you can find their beautiful displays of huts and their roof. Their roofs are such as that the boards are overturned and kept on the buildings. Is it thatched roof, and it seems that some boat is turned and kept on them. And so it is called Bengal Dome, thatched huts. And Mughals liked the Bengal Dome. Akbar's capital at Fatehpur Sikri, many of the buildings show the influence of the architecture style of Gujarat and Malwa. The Jharokha and all you can see, whatever the buildings are there, that ventilators, the designs are influencing that. Even though the authority of Mughal rulers waned in 18th century, the architectural style developed their patronage. After that also it is adopted by the rulers, and every ruler tried to leave its own impact during its rule, rather it be Mughal or anyone, so that people do remember them afterwards also.